Now, how's this guy open? He opens up. A is 2, and it's positive, so this is what we're looking at. And by the way, that means that if I'm looking at the range, it starts here and then goes to infinity. But I need the y-coordinate of the vertex in order to be able to put the range in. So x-coordinate of the vertex is minus b over 2a, which is a minus 7 over 2 times 2, which is positive 7/4. Now this is where things get a mite unhappy, because the y-coordinate of the vertex is 2 times 7/4 squared minus 7 times 7/4 minus 4. Now, we could go in and do it by hand if we wanted to, but our handy-dandy little calculators are very good at it, much better than we are. But you should be able to do it by hand if you had to. So I just put it in as I see it. 2 times 7 divide 4 squared minus 7 times 7 divide 4 minus 4, and I get negative 10.125. No sweat. Now, one thing that I could do, and what your calculators are capable of doing, is many of your calculators will actually take this number and push it to a fraction.
Negative 10 to over 60.
Yeah, which is 1 over 8. So I can say math, down the math button, and this says push it to a fraction. It's going to take this number, which I just calculated, they call that answer, push it to a fraction, and then you get negative 80 1/8. That doesn't have any meaning to me, but it's 10 1/8. That has more meaning. Now, you could do the whole thing at one time. So if I had that and say, I've got fractions in, I want fractions out, at this point I just say, do that calculation and give me in fractional format, and that would do that. And that's kind of a nice handy thing to have. But the decimal form of it is just as meaningful as well. What's the axis of symmetry? X equals what? X equals 7/4, which is 1 3/4. X-intercepts is where y equals 0. So that's where 2x squared minus 7x minus 4 equals 0. And it factors. What if it didn't factor? What would I have to use? Quadratic formula, that thing we just learned how to do. And by the way, if you can't factor it, and even if it does factor, and you're having trouble factoring it, what can you always use? Quadratic formula, right? So sometimes it's not worth struggling to factor it. Just use a quadratic formula. So we're now at that stage where you have other tools in your toolbox. So this is a 2x and an x, 4 and 1, and I need a minus 7, so that's going to be minus and plus. So that x is negative 1/2, x is positive 4. So it's negative 1/2, 0, and 4, 0. Those are my x-intercepts. Now y-intercept is where x equals 0. So it's 2 times 0 squared minus 7 times 0 minus 4, which is just minus 4. It's just the constant. That's why I like the y-intercept so much. Kills all the x's, and the only thing left standing are numbers. So it's 0 minus 4. What do we know the domain is? All real numbers. No denominator, no radical. So I just put the information I have. 1 1/4. And by the way, this is not going to work. I got to scale a sucker. And this time I'm going to do it in 2s. So -2, -4, -6, -8, -10. That would work. You could do it in 5s. You could do it in 3s. Whatever makes your little heart happy. And it's just a little bit more than -10. So it's 1 3/4, smidgen more than -10. And then I have 2 x-intercepts, -1/2 0, and 4 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't know why, but that doesn't look right.
Shouldn't it be more than, like a little bit more than 1
More than
instead of less
one
than
half.
1?
That's why it doesn't look right. Should be right here. Should be 1 3/4. I know it didn't look right. Now, you're going to ask me, well, how did I know that was the case? I got too many dots on here. How did I know that was the case? What do I know about the vertex? Vertex should be in the middle of these 2 x-intercepts. Because remember, the axis of symmetry goes down the middle. And the x-intercepts, because this graph, half is on one side, half is on the other, the 2 x-intercepts will basically be the same distance from the axis of symmetry. That's why it's called the axis of symmetry. When I looked and I saw this guy was too far away from here versus the -1/2, I knew I was off somewhere. Yes?
We have both ways. We have,
Pardon me? I haven't put the other one on yet.
so we use the y-intercept one.
Yeah, and that goes right here.
5 points. What's that other point for?
This one was a mistake. Right there.
So what's the other one for?
This
That was a bleed through the prior graph.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's because I got papers on top of each other. So now I can come down through. Look at that. And then it goes up from there. If I could find my white tape, I would white it out, but I don't know where my white tape is at the moment. So this guy here, if I had a blue pen, that the guy doesn't exist. Now what's the range? Well, this guy is negative 10.125 to infinity. Because he opens up. He's a pretty parabola. Much prettier than the 8 o'clock parabola.